All right. Here's a question for you, and I want you to think about this really carefully. If you've been creating content for months, maybe longer, blog posts, social posts, short form videos, you're showing up consistently, but your authority is still not where it needs to be. The inquiries aren't coming in the way they should be. Meanwhile, somebody you know just got quoted in a major publication. They look like the go-to expert in your space. Their rates went up. There's a faster route to authority than building your own relationships with people from scratch, and most people ignore it. Okay. I want to break down exactly why media appearances build authority faster than organic content. And I'm going to give you 4 marketing tactics to actually do that. Okay. Because here's what I see: most coaches, consultants, experts, speakers are pursuing authority through content creation alone, organic content, and it's slow. Media appearances, specifically podcast guesting, hero responses, which we'll talk about, local news, industry publications, builds authority way faster because they transfer borrowed trust from established platforms rather than you having to create trust from scratch. So media and content are not alternatives. They are sequential. Media appearances give you that initial credibility, and then your own organic content reinforces that. Okay. So today I want to give you 4 specific ways that you can tap into this. Now, this is for you if you are coach, consultant, author, speaker, you've been creating content consistently, but it's not seeing the authority or the inquiry levels that you expected. You've got the expertise, you've got the work ethic, but the strategy's off. You've probably done social media, you've probably published regularly, you've maybe even got a small newsletter. The next part is executing a media placement and using that as a foundation for authority. So, coach, consultant, therapist, financial advisor, knowledge professional in any field where trust and credibility are the primary buying drivers. This works especially well when the audience is experiencing algorithm fatigue, reach decline, or content burnout. The permission to stop trying to outpublish everybody else and leverage other people's audiences should bring you a sigh of relief. All right. Let me give an example. Marcus had been a leadership consultant for 4 years. He wrote a detailed LinkedIn post every week. He had a newsletter. He spoke at 2 events a year. By any measure, he was showing up, but his following had grown slowly, and he had about 3,000 people across his platforms, but he wasn't happy. His pipeline was inconsistent. Some months were great, other months were thin, and he could never quite work out why. He was putting in the same effort. Then he saw a notification. A consultant he'd met briefly at a conference 2 years ago had been quoted in Harvard Business Review. 400 times that thing had been shared. The consultant's LinkedIn following jumped by 800 people in about 48 hours. Same niche, same experience, but one thing had changed completely. The bio now said, as featured in Harvard Business Review, and everything looked different because of that. Does that make sense? So you might be sitting there right now feeling frustrated at the gap between the amount of content you're putting out and the inquiries that are coming back. You may be demoralized when someone with less experience lands a high profile placement and suddenly looks more credible than you. Imposter syndrome creeps in about maybe pitching the media, or you're anxious that the business will never reach the level of visibility that you need it to. Publishing more content in the hope that volume solves strategy is a dumb strategy. Obsessing over vanity metrics like follower counts and engagement rates rather than inquiry and conversion rates. Treating media appearances as something that will happen to other people rather than a strategy that you can actually pursue. If you think that you need a bigger following before journalists will take you seriously, or you think that the media is only for people who are already famous, or you think that podcast hosts only want guests with large audiences, you're mistaken. I have to tell you. I want you to grasp this as another tool in your toolbox, another weapon in your arsenal. Get confident approaching media. Get excited at the compound snowball effect of that as seen on proof. Relief at having a system that does not require out publishing everybody else. And pride in being the expert that other platforms choose to feature. You could pitch 2 to 3 to 4 podcasts a month. You could respond to Hero, help a reporter out, Hero, and send a request every week. You could identify local news angles and approach radio stations directly. You could have an article in a newspaper. You could use every placement as an evergreen asset that you can then list everywhere. You discover that media access is far more available than you thought it was. And one appearance builds credibility more than months of content. Okay? The platforms are actively looking for experts. Media appearances make your content perform better. I actually have an entire course, of course I do, on how to do all this kind of stuff. But why does this matter so much? Why am I talking about media in the first place? Why does it matter that coaches and consultants are relying on content alone to build authority? Because organic content only authority building is slow, it is uncertain, and it is entirely dependent on Big Al, the algorithm, that you aren't in control of. An inconsistent visibility produces inconsistent inquiries, which then creates financial pressure that forces coaches and consultants to undercharge or take wrong fit clients and stay stuck at a level of business that does not reflect their actual expertise. And if you're operating under financial pressure, you're not doing your best work. You're saying yes to clients you should decline. You're undelivering because you're overstretched. And you're spending energy on survival rather than excellence. So the people who need a faster authority strategy are often the ones with the most genuine expertise, but they're being outmarketed by people with less skill, but more marketing savvy, specifically media savvy. That means the right clients are not finding the right experts. Media appearances close that gap faster than any other strategy out there if you're a solo professional or a small firm. This is a leverage lever that most people aren't pulling. You have to stop waiting for the algorithm to make you famous and start using other people's audiences to build your credibility now. Every month you wait is a month your right clients are finding somebody other than you. Did you know there are over 3 million active podcasts globally? And most hosts are actively looking for guests who can deliver value. Podcast guesting is high volume, low barrier media opportunities for you. Harrow, help a reporter out, sends journalist requests to registered sources 3 times a day. You could be featured in Forbes, the BBC, or Business Insider in a matter of days. A single Forbes quote provides the same search engine visibility signal to a prospect as ranking a piece of content for a major keyword on the first page of Google. But it could take hours rather than months. A local TV news producer needs daily content, and they're looking for camera-ready expert guests. Local stuff is less competitive than national stuff, and it often has more credibility in the local area. Trade publications want expert thinking, right? General content platforms reach broad audiences, but an industry publication reaches qualified buyers. That as seen on social proof combines, and that can be used on your website, in email signatures, on your social profiles, creating evergreen credibility. It's third-party validation. So the prospect who finds you through a trusted publication arrives pre-sold, pre-trusting, and doesn't need to be persuaded. Do you like having your life made easier? Building authority alone through content is like trying to fill a concert venue by standing on the street, handing out flyers one by one. Media appearances are like having the promoter of the biggest venue in town put your name on the billboard, right? Content creation is building a road. Media appearances is being given a lift by someone who already built the motorway. You end up in the same place, but one of those journeys takes years, the other takes an afternoon. Bunch of kids getting rained on outside. So everyone knows the feeling of discovering somebody through a recommendation from a trusted source and immediately treating that person differently than if they found them cold. That's the mechanism this episode is teaching coaches and consultants to trigger on purpose. You can ride on the existing third-party trust. So here's 4 tactics you can do. Number 1, get on podcasts. Identify 5 podcasts in your niche where the audience matches your ideal client. Write a pitch, 1-paragraph pitch that leads with the value you deliver to their audience, and pitch all 5 of them this week. Aim for 2 to 3 appearances per month. And every appearance is a speaking sample, it's a credibility asset, and a new audience introduction at the same time. You could register with HARO, Help a Reporter Out. Set up alerts for your area of expertise, and when a relevant journalist request comes in, you respond immediately with a concise, quotable answer. 3, 4, 5 sentences. Speed and specificity are what they're looking for. Local news stuff, TV stations, radio stations, I've been on BBC Scotland numerous times. Find the angle that connects your expertise excuse me, to a current affairs news story or a recurring human interest format, and then pitch via email with a clear topic and a credibility statement. Local TV is a lot easier to get into than you might think. Tactic 4 is industry publications. Identify 2 or 3 trade publications that your ideal clients read. Study their submission guidelines and pitch an idea with a specific angle to that trade publication. Again, you might reach thousands of your ideal client in one fell swoop. So my challenge to you this week is make one move. Write a podcast pitch, or go to HARO, or go to the news channels. One thing this week. Now, you might be going, well, what if I get rejected? Rejection's part of the gig here. It's part of the deal. Most media pitches don't land first time. And the professionals who build strong media profiles are the ones who pitch consistently and refine their approach with every attempt. What if I don't know what to pitch? Well, your expertise is the pitch. The question to answer is, what does the audience need to know that I can explain better than anyone else? That's what you lead with. What if I don't have any media experience yet? Well, everybody starts at 0, right? Podcast guesting and HARO responses are designed for experts who don't have an existing profile. Go there first. But imagine opening your website and seeing a row of publication logos that you've seen on other people's websites. Or a prospect finds you through a podcast interview and arrives on a strategy call with you already sold. And your content performs better because the people reading it have already been told by a trusted source that you're worth listening to. Many coaches and consultants discover that the first media placement generates a direct inquiry. Not because the placement was huge, but because the right person saw it at the right time and the trust signal was strong enough. One appearance can change the entire pipeline overnight. So Marcus spent one afternoon looking at HARO, Help a Reporter Out. He found 3 journalist requests relevant to his leadership niche. He responded to all 3 with specific quotable answers. 2 weeks later, one of them came back, and his quote appeared in a business publication with a monthly readership of 200,000. So he added that logo to his website. He mentioned it in his LinkedIn bio. He referenced it in his next proposal. And everything he said, he'd always said before, but now it had a different weight. The next month, he guested on 2 podcasts. Neither had a particularly big audience, but one had the right audience. And one of those episodes got a direct message from a listener who became his highest paying client to date. So you don't need to be everywhere, but you do need to be somewhere that your right clients already trust, and borrow their trust and let that trust become yours. Now, I have an entire training called The Unforgettable. It's a course. It's free for 7 days. It's a full system for building authority and getting in front of the right audiences step by step. I'll put a link somewhere near this video. And if this landed with you, share it with a coach, consultant, expert who's working hard, but is not getting the visibility that they deserve. They need to hear this stuff. If you keep publishing good content, limited reach, inconsistent inquiries, watching other consultants and coaches with less expertise who keep landing the clients that you should be working with because they have the credibility proof that you haven't got. That's the hard, slow way to do it. Alternatively, you make one media move this week. You get one placement. You add that one logo to your website. Your existing content starts to perform better because the trust has been established. And then you do it again. That's what I teach in the Unforgettable course. It gives you the entire system, and you get it for 7 days, completely free. So, the whole point of this episode of Chosen is that legends are not born, they are engineered. And you can achieve a consistent, fully booked pipeline in the next 90 days while reducing your dependence on the algorithm because you've got a credibility that attracts premium clients through sources that they already trust. That's the aim of the game. My name is Jonathan Clark. This is Chosen. I hope you found that useful. I will see you next week.